Weather Bell Analytics meteorologist Joe Bestart. Big climate strike coming up on Friday. All these kids are going to be out protesting the climate change, and I'm pleased to say that they're going to have good weather on most of the planet to do so. Very nice weather, ideal conditions for striking, going outside, cutting class, the whole bit. I never cut class, but some of my friends did, and I noticed they tended to cut class when the weather was nice, and the weather will be nice. And goodness, here's an example of the climate change people, and they're yelling and screaming. And but you know what? I'm wondering if they ever took a look at some actual facts. For instance, let's take a look at landfalling major U.S. hurricanes. Now, over the let's see, 15 years is it? 14 years. We've had three, and those in the last 2 years. There have been three majors hit. The decade before, seven. And you can see there's one, two, three, 4 decades where it's seven. Here's the 1950s with eight. So in general, this has had a lot more than this recently. I mean, facts don't lie. Here's now this means absolutely nothing because I don't believe CO2 has anything to do with hurricanes, but it's still fun to show this that as we increase the amount of CO2 in the air, there's actually been a decrease in hurricanes. There used to be more hurricane strikes when there was less CO2, as you can see there. But that's sort of distorted because of the fact that there were years and years that CO2 was this low. But I'm just saying that, if you want to play games, you can play games, all right? Now, as far as tornadoes go, strong to violent tornadoes have been decreasing, as you can plainly see there, which is why, when we look at what happened with the Wicked Witch of the West and what happened with Dorothy, it was far more common. There were far more strong tornadoes back then in the time of the Wizard of Oz. So you think about that, all right? And here's heat waves. And yes, it was worse for your grandparents. There were more heat waves back in the 1930s than recently. Now, we went through a cool time over here. That's where everybody's moving down south. Yeah, what the heck? It's not this hot down in Texas anymore, right? So people are adjusting to this. But you could see back in the 30s, especially in the 30s, how much worse it was. So kids, it was worse. As you could see, there were more tornadoes, more hurricanes, more heat. All right, wildfires at the beginning of the century were burning up much more than what they've been burned. By the way, wildfires are about 50, 60% of the 10-year running mean this particular year. Don't worry, there'll be some wildfires later when the hurricane season dies down and it's not as hot. Wildfires will show up someplace, and so the climate ambulance chasers will go there. The kids will protest and go crazy. Okay, so here we are, EF tornadoes, not to be confused with EF Hutton. EF1 tornadoes and above have been decreasing, as you can see. What have we got here? Average number, record high maximum temperatures across the U.S. You can see there were more here. Recently, it's been getting a little bit warmer, but not as bad as it used to be. Oh, and all this extinction going on. The list of all extinct species by the decade is dropping con mucho rapidamente, as we would say in my Spanish class. I took Spanish for 2 years. Every once in a while, I use Spanish so I can remember that I actually took the class. Global deaths from climate, non-climate catastrophes are falling. I wonder if these kids even take a look at this. All right? Population and food, that's in the background, but what this is showing you how green the planet is, right? It's at the greenest it's ever been in the satellite era, and there is that population and food. You can see we've been producing a lot more food as the population grows up. How about that? Adaptation. The fact is that the planet, life has never been better on planet Earth for both plants and animals. Oh, and by the way, let's see, we got per capita income and life expectancy going up. So you kids, you're living longer and making more money, which is probably why you have that, because there's more money around, because your parents have been more successful, that you have the time to cut class and go outside and protest something that's not that big a deal. My advice to all you kids is don't worry, be happy, focus on the abilities the good Lord gave you, and enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got. especially since it's so nice that you could cut class, go outside, and protest how bad things are. Make sense?